Hi guys, it's Kathy. I hope you're doing well. We made it to Wednesday. It was so gorgeous out today. It was so gorgeous yesterday, a couple hours ago. Um, Nobody wanted any beer. I hate when that happens. It's so nice out. People just no, no. We'd rather play outside than go drink beer. What's wrong with you people? Stay away from the outside. Go drink beer. It was more fun in my bar than it was outside. But yeah, here, don't have kids. Never have kids. And whatever you do, don't ever get any cats. All right. What are we doing today? Okay, all right, listen. We're going to do something a little different today. You know how we always see the initial hearings, preliminary, probable cause, all of that. And we see all these people come up, domestic violence, DUI, blah, blah, blah. And they always say, wait, no, that's not how it really happened. That police report, that's not how it happened. They got it wrong. Most of the people after that plea. They just take a plea. But some make it to the trial. But even if you make it to a trial, that does not mean you're going to finish a trial. We're going to see someone. Okay, the reason why I recorded this was the opening statements. I'm a sucker for them. They were both completely different opening statements. This is what happened. No, this is what happened. And I was like, what? What do you mean? Okay, took me a couple days to get this, and you know, it's just the process, the whole court process. We're about to see a different part of it because we always see the beginning, we never see the middle or the end. Here we go.
We are back on the record in 23 CR 3418. Mr. Smith is present with counsel. The people are present and our jurors have returned. You do have those notebooks there. Please do at this time.
Okay, I should tell you. This is a full jury trial. All right? And I don't know what he's charged with. I have no idea. I have no idea. They keep saying the charges, the charges. I don't know what he's charged with. I think he's charged with domestic violence. Okay? But that's not the reason. I mean, that's only one of the reasons why he's here is domestic violence. There was a shootout. And that, I think, is the bigger reason why he's here. Not with her. But, so it's kind of hard to figure out what he's charged with. But it doesn't matter.
Open them up and write your name on the name page inside so we don't get those mixed up accidentally. Also, in those binders, you'll notice a couple of other things. You'll see a pamphlet that talks about things you can do in the event that you have emotionally difficult service on a jury, and also a card that gives you information about rating your experience with the courts.
I did record the jury selection for this, but instead, I cut it out.
At this time, I'll ask the people if they wish to make an opening statement.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Wick?
Nightmare on Fox Street. Horror. Wait. Little Superman and a young princess being driven home by their mother, Angelina Abos, who herself had come to the occasion wearing cat face paint, thinking that they were going to come home and go trick-or-treating on Halloween. The only thing on their minds was armfuls of candy. Little did they know that their father, the defendant, Jalen Smith, was waiting in his Jaguar parked outside Angelina's house. Instead of going trick-or-treating, that little Superman and that princess watched their dad beat their mother, Angelina, watched him punch her over and over again, leaving her bloodied in the face. When a good
I guess I should have told you. This is not what happened. Just relax, guys. This did never happen.
Samaritan, a neighbor, Anthony Rodriguez, comes in and says, hey, knock that off. Jalen Smith goes to his Jaguar, gets a gun, and shoots him in the leg. A pure horror scene at the hands of Jalen Smith. On October 31st, 2023, Jalen Smith, around 4 p.m. in the afternoon, arrives to Angelina's home in his black Jaguar and parks outside of the residence. Now, the residence that Angelina lives in, this is a close community. So each house, they kind of share a wall. They're very close in a row of houses together. And there's a parking lot that they share. And across this very small parking lot is another row of houses. So these neighbors are pretty close together. They share common areas, such as trash bins, parking lots, that sort of thing. So Jalen Smith is there waiting for Angelina to arrive home. When Angelina arrives home with her 2 young kids, dressed as a Superman and a princess, and gets out of her vehicle, Jalen Smith approaches her immediately, upset over who she's been texting, and starts hitting her in the face, bringing her down to the ground, continuing to hit her. Now young Superman and the princess, they try to save the day, try to pull off dad, off mom. They're screaming. Angelina's screaming. Jalen Smith is too strong. They're not able to help mom. Mom's not able to pursue. And given this tight-knit community, this close community, several neighbors hear this commotion. They hear this violent act happening nearby. They hear the screaming of the children. They hear Angelina screaming. 3 of those neighbors are Aaron Estrella, Amy Rodriguez, and their 5-year-old son, Jacob. They live across the parking lot and in the home right across the parking lot from Angelina. Again, it's a small parking lot, so the sight distance is pretty small, 20 to 30 feet. They were planning to take their son, Jacob. So they exit their home and they put Jacob in their red Jeep when they hear and see this violent act occur. They're not the sort of people who just let this violence go nearby their home. They don't just get in their car and drive away. Aaron and Amy know that they have to do something to save this woman. They go back to their house because they live with Amy's cousin, and they knock on the door and they say, help, help, we need to get help. This woman's getting beat up outside. So Anthony Rodriguez comes outside as well. And he, with Aaron following close behind, start to approach the scene where they're watching Jalen Smith beat up Angelina. From a distance, far length away, 10 feet away, they tell him to knock it off, to get off her. They don't pull out any weapons. They don't make threats. They don't touch Jalen Smith. They aren't aggressive physically to him at all. Tell him to knock it off from a distance. In response to this, Jalen Smith gets up, walks back to the driver's side door of his car, gets his gun, aims it, and fires. He strikes Anthony Rodriguez in the leg. Now panic ensued. Neighbors are rushing back to their homes. Neighbors are trying to grab these children that are out watching everything happening. Aaron Estrella runs over to his cousin and sees that he's gushing blood. Jalen Smith immediately gets into his car, backs up, and starts driving away. 14 seconds after you hear that first shot, you'll hear another round of shots. There's Aaron Estrella to run up to his cousin, grab the gun that he knows that Anthony keeps on his person. Grabs that gun, and he fires at the Jaguar as it's driving away. After Jalen Smith has already gotten in the vehicle and is driving away, you'll hear another set of gunshots. But there is all this panic. Anthony's bleeding from his leg. He's running, trying to hobble back to his own house. He's yelling at people to call 911. He's bleeding everywhere. Again, the neighbors are rushing back to their houses, trying to protect their children. Aaron helps Anthony eventually get into that red Jeep and takes him to the hospital because they can't wait for an ambulance. When the police arrive a short time later, you'll see Angelina, still blood coming down her face. Her children nearby. When Anthony Rodriguez goes to the hospital, he needs a surgery immediately. He'll need several surgeries. He'll deal with complications from being shot in the leg.
Section 403, victim impact evidence.
Overruled.
And soon later, within an hour, Jalen Smith is found in his jail. He's found with Angelina's phone still in his pocket. He's found with the black hoodie that everyone describes him wearing in his backseat. On October 31st, 2023, everyone
Keep that question in mind.
wanted to take their kids trick-or-treating. Everyone was thinking about me. Everyone except Jalen Smith. Jalen Smith beats Angelina. Jalen Smith leaves Angelina with a bloody face, stolen phone. Jalen Smith fires a gun at Anthony Rodriguez. Jalen Smith leaves Anthony Rodriguez with a bullet wound to his leg. A horror scene that hands Jalen Smith. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the defense wish to make an opening statement?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. This is where it gets a little weird.
Go on.
Maybe.
On
Possibly.
October 31st, 2023, Jalen Smith was afraid he was going to be shot and afraid he was going to die. On that day, Mr. Smith was waiting at the home of Angelina Abos, where he had been staying for several days. It's true, there was a domestic dispute between Mr. Smith and Ms. Abos. The evidence you hear is going to be a little different. The evidence you're going to hear is that Mr. Smith did strike Ms. Abos one time on the side of the head. Her glasses hit the sensitive skin behind her ear, caused a small cut. You're not going to hear evidence that he was beating on her. You're not going to see evidence of those kinds of injuries. What you will hear is that Mr. Smith took her phone and then was going to leave her residence, starts walking towards his car when two neighbors intervene. At this point, the situation between Mr. Smith and Ms. Abos is over. He's trying to leave. But these neighbors, they aren't saying just get off her, knock it off. You'll hear they're yelling at Mr. Smith, they're cursing at Mr. Smith. You're going to hear about those two neighbors. Anthony Stephen Rodriguez and Aaron Estrella. You're going to hear that when they come outside and they confront Mr. Smith, after his situation with Ms. Abos is completely over, that they're yelling at him, and that Stephen Rodriguez has brought a gun. You're going to hear that before a gun was ever involved with Mr. Smith, Stephen Rodriguez walked outside with a gun. And with this situation over, he displayed that gun. He retrieved that gun, and he pointed that gun at Mr. Smith. You're going to hear today that Mr. Smith only retrieves his gun after another firearm is pointed at him, after the other situation is over, and only because he fears for his life. This is not a case of attempted murder. It's not a case of first-degree assault. It's a case where a man was defending himself from someone else threatening him with a firearm. Ultimately, these prosecutors have the burden to prove to you otherwise. They have the sole burden of proof in this trial. That means they have to prove to you that Mr. Smith is guilty of the charges involving firing that gun beyond any reasonable doubt. Like the judge told you, that's the highest burden in our justice system. And he goes for self-defense too. They got to disprove self-defense beyond a reasonable doubt. They're not going to be able to do that today. Because Mr. Smith is not guilty of the charges they brought against him. Because this isn't some horror movie. It's not Nightmare on Fox Street. It's a case of a person using legitimate self-defense. It's a serious thing. and it's something for which Mr. Smith has been falsely accused. Let's talk about what you're going to hear this week. You're going to hear that on October 31st, 2023, yes, Mr. Smith was at the home of Ms. Abos. Yes, they were having a domestic dispute. He had been staying there for several days, so it's not strange that he was at that. But he does, as I'm sure you're going to hear from witnesses, and from probably Ms. Abos herself, hit Ms. Abos once. That's not something Mr. Smith is proud of. That's not something he wishes that he had done. It's certainly something he regrets. And it's something he's taking accountability for today. The charge that corresponds to that, I'm going to ask you to find him not guilty of that. After this one strike happens, Mr. Smith goes inside the home that he's been staying at, Ms. Abos' home, to retrieve belongings. Then he comes back outside. Somewhere during the situation, he takes Ms. Abos' phone. This is not a strong-arm robbery. He's not forcing her to give away the phone. He's not threatening her. He takes the phone. And he walks to get in his car. At this point, these two neighbors, Aaron Estrella and Stephen Anthony Rodriguez, walked outside and are yelling at Mr. Smith. And even as he's walking to his car, they're yelling at Mr. Smith. Even as the situation's over, they're yelling at Mr. Smith. You're going to hear that Stephen Anthony Rodriguez brings out a firearm. At the time he walks outside, no firearm's been seen. Mr. Smith doesn't have a firearm on him that anyone sees. But Stephen Anthony Rodriguez brings a gun to the situation. You're going to hear from witnesses that he was holding that gun. You can hear that only after that point did Mr. Smith retrieve a gun and fire one shot at Stephen Anthony Rodriguez. You're going to hear that that one shot is very important, because this one shot was in Stephen Anthony Rodriguez's leg. Mr. Smith didn't shoot at any other individuals involved. He solely shot at the one person who had a gun. That'll be evidence we'll ask you to consider in evaluating self-defense in this case. One shot, and then Mr. Smith got into his vehicle and fled the scene. Tried to escape from the chaos because he wasn't out to attempt murder. He was out to defend himself and get away. Now, it's important here at this point that Aaron Estrella, he does walk up to Mr. Rodriguez and take the gun out of his hand. Aaron Estrella is not supposed to have a gun. We learned today he has a felony conviction. But he grabs that gun, he points at Mr. Smith's black Jaguar, which is driving away, and he fires. Bam, 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 bam. 6 times. Hitting Mr. Smith's car several times. Hitting a nearby house several times. The only one charged in this case is James. Stephen Rodriguez has not been charged for bringing a gun into the situation. Aaron Estrella has not been charged for shooting 6 times Mr. Smith while he was trying to run away. You're going to hear over the course of this trial from many different witnesses who were there on scene. Police officers, but also just neighbors. You're going to hear a lot of different accounts of what happened. They're not all going to be the same. They're going to have big differences. Part of that's just how witnesses are, part of that's just memory. We're also going to take you a look, we're going to ask you to take a look at which witnesses' stories are convenient to make Aaron Estrella, who fired a gun he wasn't supposed to have, or Stephen Rodriguez, who introduced a gun into a situation where there wasn't one before. We're going to ask you to look at whether those witnesses' statements are made to make them look better, whether exaggerations are made to make Mr. Smith look worse. Confident that when you look at the contradictions between witnesses, when you look at the evidence, both statements from witnesses and the physical objective evidence, it'll be clear. Mr. Smith was acting in self-defense as it applies to the charges involving Stephen Anthony Rodriguez. That's why at the end of this trial, it's for you. There are 3 instances before you. I'm going to ask you to find Mr. Smith not guilty. We're asking to find Mr. Smith not guilty of the charges involving a firearm, because Mr. Smith was acting in self-defense. And although he regrets some of his actions that day and takes accountability for the ones that he did, he was not attempting to murder anyone. He was not assaulting anyone. He was lawfully exercising his rights to self-defense. Confident that you look at that evidence, there will be only one verdict consistent with the evidence. Find him not guilty of those charges.
Thank you. First,
All right, I'm going to give you a little spoiler alert right now. Neither of those stories are true. Neither of those stories are really what happened that day.
witness for the people. Thank you. Good afternoon, Deputy. Would you mind coming right over here?
The sound
Yes,
gets way better now that they're the attorneys are done walking around. Don't worry.
You solemnly swear or affirm to tell us the above, testimony today will be the truth and the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Please proceed. And could you please tell us your name and spell your last name?
I'm Senior Deputy Jeff May. Last name spelled just like the month.
Thank you. Ms. Bow.
That's MAY, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Senior Deputy, where are you employed?
With the Adams County Sheriff's Office.
What's your job there?
Currently, I'm assigned to CRT, which is our community resource team. Prior to that, I was assigned to our General Patrol Division.
What does it mean to be assigned to General Patrol?
It's what most people think of as cops. They respond to calls for service, people calling 911 or non-emergency
What you
line.
gonna do?
How long have you been in law enforcement?
8 years.
In those 8 years, were you always with the Adams County Sheriff's Office?
Yes,
Are you post-certified?
I am.
What does that mean?
It's a certification that anybody who wants to act as a law enforcement officer has to obtain to be able to operate in the state of Colorado.
Do you take trainings?
Yes, annually.
Okay. And I don't want to get into all of those, but what are some of the trainings that you take to be post-certified?
We've got a handful of mandatory training each year. Some of them are skills-based, like our driving, arrest control, firearms training. And then we do a lot of classroom-based training where we learn to interact with people with mental health disabilities, de-escalation classes, a lot of different type of classroom classes.
And you do that every year?
Yes,
And in October of 2023, were you post-certified?
yes.
What was your job at that time?
That day, I was assigned to District 2, and my job for the day was just to patrol my respective district, conduct proactive law enforcement contacts as seen fit, and respond to any calls for service in my district.
Did you respond to any calls in your district on October 31st of 2023?
I did.
About what time did you respond to that?
The one in particular that we're going to talk about today is 4:45 roughly in the afternoon.
4:45 in the afternoon. And do you recall where you responded to?
Yes, it was 8347 Fox Street.
Is that in Adams County
Yes,
in Colorado?
yes,
When you arrived on scene, did you speak with people?
I did.
Do you remember the names of the people that you spoke with?
Yes, I spoke with a female primarily. Her name was Angelina.
Do you recall her last name?
Avalos, I believe.
Okay. Did you speak to other people on scene?
Her two younger kids were there with her. I wouldn't say I necessarily spoke with them, but I guess they were trying to converse with me, but I was mainly focused on
He drove.
conversing with the adult on scene, which was their mom.
So you didn't ask any questions to the children, is that correct?
Correct.
And just, you may not be an expert in kids' ages, but would you say these kids were like high school, middle school, elementary, or something different?
Definitely elementary on the.
If you didn't notice, this cop wants absolutely nothing to do with any children ever. Ever. I know they were talking, but I don't know what kids say.
Younger end.
Okay. And while you didn't ask them any questions, they were making statements to you, is that correct?
Yes.
And do you know about how far away in time you were from the incident for the reason that you were arriving from the time that you did arrive?
Are you asking from the time we received the call to when I got on scene?
Yes, thank you for clarifying.
Probably maybe 5 minutes or so.
Okay. And are you one of the first deputies on scene?
Yes, not the first, but one of the first.
Okay. Do you know about how many deputies went to this scene?
Overall,
If I recall correctly, it was probably at least 4, 5, somewhere around there.
Okay. Did you speak with other neighbors as well?
I spoke with one neighbor briefly. I didn't get any of her identifying information, but where Angelina was actually at a neighbor's residence. So she was kind of there as a third party.
Okay. And when you saw Angelina, did you observe any injuries on her?
I did.
What injuries did you observe?
When I approached, she was holding a towel to the backside of her left ear. I asked her to remove it, and it was a fresh wound that was still actively bleeding.
Okay, at that point, I was like, all right. The prosecution was a little bit wrong in their opening statement. They said that he kept beating her in the face. She was holding a towel to the back of her left ear because of a cut.
It was a laceration, maybe inch or two long. Yeah, still actively bleeding, and I could tell that it was a fresh wound.
Did you see any injuries on the children?
No.
What was the demeanor of the children?
The demeanor of the kids, they were emotional, distraught, particularly the younger girl. She was crying off and on throughout my time on scene, interacting with Angelina. And then the older brother, he was still emotionally distraught, wasn't necessarily crying, but definitely emotional and definitely worked up over the situation.
These children, you said they were distraught and they were quite little, and they were making statements to you. Did they seem to make statements that were oriented to what everyone else was talking about at the time?
Yes, the younger girl, Anna, I believe it was, she didn't really try to communicate with me all too much, but her older brother, Javion, I think, he was trying to communicate with me a little more, just being a little bit older. And some of the remarks he was making appeared as if he was able to put the scene together, as an adult would, generally speaking.
Okay. During this interaction, were you wearing body-worn camera?
I was.
Are you wearing body-worn camera today?
Yes.
Can you point at that for the jury so they can see what that looks like?
We had a different company back then, but this is the body camera that we use today.
Generally, how does your body camera work when you arrive on scene somewhere?
Well, we generally activate it, especially with calls like the one that I responded to that day. We generally activate it as we are driving to the scene, especially if we're running code, which is lights and sirens. We'll activate our body camera while we're inside of the car. Yeah, generally it's activated prior to walking up to the scene.
Did you activate your body-worn camera when you walked up to this scene on Fox Street?
Yes.
Have you reviewed your body-worn camera in this case?
Yes.
Body
Can
camera
remain approach with what's been marked as People's Exhibit 1.
You may.
Deputy, I've handed you what's been marked as People's Exhibit 1. Do you recognize this exhibit?
Yes.
Is this exhibit a fair and accurate depiction of relevant portions of your body-worn camera when you arrived at Fox Street on October 31st, 2023 without the sound?
It is.
Here at this time, the people would move to admit People's Body-Worn Camera 1.
Any objection or what here?
I'm going to object to Rule 402 and Rule 403. May we approach?
Sure.
There's one point where I didn't cut out the sidebars because I was in the shower. I think this might be it. So I'm going to bump it ahead a second.
Exhibit 1 is bold.
Oh, he lost. He lost his objection.
Exhibit 1 is bold.
Here at this time, the people request to publish People's Exhibit 1.
You may. Let me know when you're ready for that. I just got, let me see what's in the background.
He's not wrong. He should have won that objection. I wish I could just order the trials that I want, security. I wish I could just say, show me a taser trial today. Show me a Sovset. Show me a Karen.
Could be
I wish
good.
I could. Hi,
Would you like the
Terry.
lights?
Yes, please.
No tasers, just bullets.
Or did you say we-
Lights back up for a second.
I'm gonna fast forward this too because they're having issues. They're showing the video, but there's no sound. So they're just showing the video. I don't know if they can hear it there. I feel like they can't because the microphone is right there. But there's no sound during this whole thing. That's her. You can't really see her face. She's just holding her ear. So I'm going to fast forward it till they start talking again because there's nothing to see here, folks. I wish we could hear it.
Judge, I'd ask to approach.
You may.
Statements. Costume.
There. Right there.
Deputy, we can see in that video that the little boy in the Superman costume seems to be trying to get your attention. Is that accurate?
Yes,
And you said that you did not ask him any questions, but did he make some statements to you?
he did.
Do you recall those statements?
Yes.
Or at this time that people would admit some of the statements made by Superman, we'll be asking this deputy about these statements.
Judge, I'd ask to approach.
You may.
I don't know if got this one either because I was having a concert in the shower today. Looks like I missed this one too. I ran out of hot water.
Within the first,
Deputy, what?
There we go. It would be hearsay, wouldn't it? But it's a child, so that really makes it hearsay because it's a child. I don't know.
Deputy, what did the little boy in the Superman costume say to you in that video?
so I don't
But he lost the next sidebar. He lost again.
remember the exact words he was using, but within the first couple seconds of starting to talk to his mom, Angelina, he was making statements somewhere along the lines of "Daddy's bad."
Do you recall any other statements he made?
No.
Do you recall him making a statement about observing any actions of his father?
I do recall him trying to describe, I guess, the incident as he recalled it. But to be honest, I'm not the greatest with deciphering younger kid speech, if you will. So I didn't quite catch what all he was saying.
Did he just say just a minute ago that the boys seem to understand this like an adult? He says, I think the boy is like 5 and the girl is like 3 here. I think, but we'll get the answer when mom gets on stand.
Okay.
It's raining men.
What was the job? What was your job other than what we saw on video that day?
As far as just that scene went, that particular call,
Yes. How did you complete this call for your work?
I remained with Angelina. Paramedics were called to the scene to treat her injuries. she elected not to be transported to the hospital and just got her wound cleaned up and was released on scene. At that point, I remained with her, and then the decision was made that detectives wanted her and her kids transported back to the substation for an interview. So I drove her and her kids back to the substation and remained with them until detectives got around to interviewing her.
No further questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Cross-examination. Mr. Ross.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Deputy.
Afternoon.
So, Deputy, you were dispatched to Fox Street on October 31st, 2023, right?
Yes.
And you arrive on scene several minutes after your dispatch, right?
Yes.
Okay. When you arrive, the underlying incident appears to be over, right?
Correct.
And so everything you're observing is after the fact. Fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. And when you arrive on scene, quite a few people are already present on the scene, right?
Yes.
And that's obviously you're there, right?
Correct.
But you're not the only police officer there, right?
When you arrive on the scene, are you there?
Correct.
There are 4 or 5 officers on the scene.
To my recollection, yes.
Okay. Give or take, right?
Correct.
Several paramedics or fire department folks, right?
Yes.
There's a couple of children on scene,
Yes.
as well as other adult witnesses, right?
Yes.
4 other witnesses.
I don't know the number of witnesses. I was primarily dealing with Angelina.
Okay. And everybody's moving around this area, right?
I'm not sure about the ins and outs of the scene. Like I said, I was dealing with
He's very observant, this cop is.
Angelina primarily at that corner residence.
Okay. So you were pretty focused on that corner address, right?
Yes.
When you arrive, there's no one at the scene, to your knowledge, named Aaron Estrella, right?
Yeah, that name does not ring a bell.
And no one at the scene named Anthony Rodriguez or Steven Rodriguez.
Same as my last remark. Those names don't ring a bell to me.
Okay. And the person who was apparently shot is not there, right?
Correct.
Mr. Smith's not there, right?
Correct.
Okay. One person who's on scene we spoke about was Angelina Velos, right?
Yes.
And you take her statement, right?
Yes.
When you get there, she's standing in that apartment on the corner, right?
Work
Yes.
system.
And
Work
that's,
that
you're aware
corner.
that's her neighbor's apartment, right?
Yes.
I mean, her apartment's on the other end of that complex, right?
Correct.
Okay. And as well as her neighbor is there with her, right?
Yes.
And those 2 children.
Yes.
So you talked to Miss Abos, right?
Yes.
And did you say you drive her to the police station or you're with her at the police station?
I drove her. She rode in my patrol vehicle.
Okay. So you're with her in the car, right?
Yes.
And then later you're with her at least briefly at the police station, right?
Yes.
In fact, I think you go through some paperwork with her at the police station. Does that sound right?
Correct.
Okay. So fair to say you got a good look at her, right?
Yes.
You spent at least 10, 20 minutes with her.
Correct.
Maybe more.
Yes.
Okay. You observed one injury on her, right?
Yes.
And that's the cut behind her ear, right?
Yes.
Essentially where the frame of her glasses would sit behind her ear, right?
In that general area.
Okay. That's the only injury you observe on Miss Avelos the entire time that you're with
Yes,
her, right?
I would.
Yes.
So no bruising, right?
Correct.
No cuts anywhere else, right?
Correct.
Okay. And obviously you weren't present for what happened before you got there, right?
Correct.
So you weren't present for any shooting, right?
Correct.
You weren't present.
So you weren't present before you got there, right? You weren't present on the scene before you got there? And when you got there, then you were present for that, right?
For whatever happened to Miss Avelos, right?
Correct.
And so you don't know how that situation prior to your arrival proceeded, right?
Other than what Angelina informed me, I obviously wasn't there.
Okay.
And none of us know what happened with your line of question. Now we don't know.
I don't have anything else. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job,
Can you
sir.
redirect?
Good job.
Thank you very much for your testimony. At this time, you are free to step down.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, did you guys?
Yeah, you could leave that right there. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a good time for us to break for the evening. It's 4:28 right now. Like I said, we always get out before 5. Before I let you go, I do want to remind you that during this recess and at all times during the trial, you must not discuss this case either among yourselves or with anyone else.
Yeah, I cut out the instructions. We don't need those. This is the next day. Yeah, I worked days on this trial, guys. I did.
Go on the record for Mr. Smith's case, 23 CR 3418. Mr. Smith is on his way, it looks
Before
like.
he was there, he wasn't there. But then after he was there, he was there.
Our jurors are on the way up. And Mr. Smith is present with counsel. The people are present. I understand, Mr. Laughlin, you had a couple of things to talk about. Let's do that real quick.
Yes, I'm going to take one and Miss Corey is going to take one.
Okay.
As court probably remembers prior to trial, when we discussed the firearm functionality test, one of the sanctions was that the defense can introduce it without foundation, without objection.
Oh my God, Michael, did you hear my concert today?
We expect one of the people's witnesses this morning, Anna Armstrong, is where we would elect to do that. She's not a person who tested it, but they're not calling the people who.
Wait till you hear her questions. If you want vague, you're going to get vague.
We're in charge of that, and we don't have them under subpoena for the reasons discussed in our motion, so it seems the cleanest place to bring it in. I did file a proposed contemporaneous instruction. We had discussed that with the court as well during that hearing. And so I just wanted to discuss that before we get to that. I don't want to have argument about the instruction when I'm inventing the evidence. I think that'll be messier.
Okay, that's denied at this time, but we can talk about it.
He lost again.
As being in the packet. What else?
Okay, so the court's sorry, and I had the opposite understanding, so I just want to clarify. Not doing a contemporaneous instruction, but we can discuss it being in the final jury instructions packet.
Yes.
Okay.
And I mean, some things in this instruction are just not going to work for me. Like, you're instructed that you may consider this document in your deliberation. That's the kind of thing that we just don't typically do. We don't point jurors to particular items of evidence and tell them that they can consider them. They can consider all the evidence. So I think at this point, I just don't have an instruction that I'm prepared to give. And if we're going to be doing that now, I'm just not inclined to give that instruction. But what else?
Okay, I'll let Ms. Corey handle the other part. We would be requesting a contemporaneous instruction. I understand the court's ruling.
Okay. Ms. Corey?
So, Judge, there's been another discovery violation. One of the officers, Officer Thompson, we do not have the body cam. I did note that this morning in my review. And
Guys, we're in day 2 of trial. We're in that's not true at all. We are in day 3 of trial because it took 2 days for them to pick the jury and figure out jury instructions. And if you don't believe me, I can play it all. We are in day 3 of trial, and they're saying they don't have discovery.
And the specific prejudice, in my mind, is great because Thompson enters the residence. Aaron, in his interview with the police, tells officers, there is a camera, we have a camera, it would have captured everything. Then, when they talk to Anthony or Steven, depending
I don't know. It's sort of domestic violence, but sort of like a shootout.
on how you call him, in the hospital, he says, the cameras are broken, they're not working. But he has incentive to say that because he, in the same set of sentences, tells the officers that he, in fact, was the one who fired because he didn't want Aaron Estrella to get deported. So he was trying to cover for him. Because Deputy Thompson was the deputy who entered the residence, I think there's a chance, and I couldn't say one way or another, for exculpatory evidence if that camera had, like, for example, a blue or red light because he specifically said the camera's dead.
Okay, so I was told that there was 2 brief issues. This doesn't sound like a brief issue.
Well, I only realized this discovery issue this morning.
She's
It's not my
briefing
fault
you
they didn't
now.
turn over the evidence.
No, I understand. The question is when we're going to talk about this. Is this something that we need to talk about right now because Officer Thompson is about to testify or something?
No, so they chose not to call Officer Thompson,
Okay.
but that doesn't change the exculpatory part of it. So we can, if the court would prefer to address it, I think this morning is largely just going to be Angelina and Deputy Armstrong because I think those are 2 long witnesses. We can potentially address it at the lunch hour, but I did want to call the court's attention to it at the time that I could.
Okay, so let's talk about this. Our jury's waiting right now, so I don't want to have a long conversation about this, but obviously at this point, we have already sworn the jury. Jeopardy has attached. The question of
Good question. Which lady was talking? Okay. This way over here to the right is Mr. Smith. We only see his torso. I mean, we saw him walk in a second ago. We're not going to hear from him. We're not going to see him. He's the one that apparently kept punching her in the face while she was down on the ground and took her phone. But there's no evidence of that. This is his one lawyer. She's the one talking right now. The first issue that was brought up that he lost again, and the guy who keeps losing is this guy right here. They're the defense team. This is the prosecution. She's going to be the one asking the questions today, I think. I'm pretty sure. He did the opening statement.
what exactly you're going to want from me is going to be important. But I understand we have an issue and it's not the first one. Are we ready to bring in our jurors in?
Yes, Judge, I just wanted to remind the court, if possible, to do a lunch break at like 1 to 2:30 today instead, just a little later.
Yeah, is that going to be okay for the defense if we take a lunch break from 1 to 2:30?
Wait. Okay, so we're taking lunch at 1:30.
We're going to take lunch at 1.
1.
And I don't think we have an objection to that. We might take like a 5-minute break in between witnesses, just if anything.
Yeah, if we probably need to take a morning break at some point, that's fine.
But otherwise, I think that's fine.
All right, we'll bring in our
I
jurors.
don't get a break when I work. You don't get a break. Keep going.
Oh.
No problem.
Oh.
People love it when I pause. Yes.
Maybe we'll let our jurors go at 12:30 or something so we can talk.
I never eat. I hardly ever get to eat. Ever.
Talk about the discovery issue and then break for lunch at 1-ish.
We expect to be walk them then? 2:30?
I ate at work? No. Nope. Since starting, I may have stole 4 fries, and I've been there for almost 5 years now. Actually ordering a meal and sitting down and eating it or taking a bite as I'm working, it's rare. I have Pez. That's not eating, though. Eating Pez. What did I eat yesterday? Yesterday was trivia. I didn't have time to eat. I was busy. People get upset if servers eat, if they sit, if they look at their phone, if they watch TV. If you're at a restaurant and you see a server who's not walking, you get mad. Oh, I ate breakfast. Oh, he's talking about this work, not serving. I get it now. I got there. Kelly got me there. That's so rude. That's so rude. Hold on a second. Come on, people, let's go. No, it's not. There's no evidence in mod chat.
341.
Here we go.
Seated. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back. We are back on the record in 23 CR 3418. Mr. Smith is present with counsel. The people are present. Our jury has returned. Are the people ready to call their next witness? Who is that? Thank you.
This is the mom. This is the one that was beat down. She's gonna make the prosecutor's life a living hell for the next few minutes, guys. And this is why we don't put victims of domestic violence on the stand. You have to get other evidence. Never put them on the stand. Yes, Kelly figured it out. I didn't. I was dumbfounded. Like, what did I eat? How did you know?
And can I get you to pull that microphone forward and bend it down maybe a little bit so it's right in front of you when you're speaking? And tell us your name and spell your last name.
Angelina Abos, Avalos.
Thank you. Ms. Babb?
Thank you.
I'm a server. I don't get a paycheck. They don't pay me. I mean, the little bit that they say I get an hour, they give to the government for taxes. I never get a paycheck.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I want to talk to you about October 31st of 2023, but first I want to talk a little bit about you. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. So you said your name is Angelina. Is that okay if I call you by your first name?
Mhm.
Okay. Who is in your family?
My
More-
kids,
Your kids? Okay.
grandparents, their father, everybody.
Your kids, and can you just almost as if it's touching your mouth really close?
Okay.
Okay.
My kids, their father, their grandparents.
Your kids, their father, and their grandparents? Okay. Who are your children?
She was a cat.
Annalie and Javion.
Annalia and Javion?
Mm-hmm.
What are their birthdays?
Javion is July 25th and Annalie is January 3rd.
What's their last name?
Smith,
Who's their dad?
Jalen Smith.
Jalen Smith.
Mhm.
Do you see Jalen Smith in the courtroom here today?
Yeah.
Can you say what he's wearing or where he's sitting?
I guess the gray button up.
He has a gray button up. And you've been looking sort of to my right, is that correct?
Yeah.
Your Honor, for the record, Your Honor, if the record can identify that this witness has identified the defendant in this case.
It shall. And ma'am, could I get you the base of that microphone moves? Can you hold that just a little closer to you? Thank you very much.
So Mr. Smith is the father of your two children, is that correct?
Correct?
Are you currently in a relationship with him?
No, but we co-parent with each other.
You co-parent with each other? Okay. About how long has that been the status of your relationship?
For a little while. I don't know, a couple years.
Couple years, okay. At one point, were you romantically together?
Mhm.
Okay. What did you call each other?
Boyfriend and girlfriend.
Okay.
She's repeating back everything that she says, which is outstandingly annoying. But she's doing it because nobody in the courtroom can hear this woman talk. We can hear because the microphone is right there. But no one else can hear her.
And you had two children together, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you ever live together?
Yeah.
Where did you live together?
In Greeley, when I moved back, we'd live with each other on and off, kind of.
Okay. And when did you live in Greeley?
Mm-hmm. After my son was born, so 2019 to like 2020,
Okay.
or Analea was born.
In 2020?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then you moved from Greeley, is that correct?
I moved back to Aurora with my mom.
Okay. And you lived with your mom and Mr. Smith, or just your mom?
Just my mom and the kids, my other siblings. He still lived up there for work.
He did. Okay. And then at some point, did you move to an apartment on Fox Street?
Mhm.
About when was that?
That was 2022, 23.
2022, 2023.
They don't right now. They can't.
Agree? Okay. Do you know about how long before October 31st of 2023 you had lived at Fox Street?
I had moved there that year.
You lived there that year, moved in that year. Okay. Do you remember your address on Fox Street?
8353 Fox Street. 53 Fox Street.
8353 Fox Street.
Mhm.
Okay. And on Fox Street, who did you live with?
Me and my kids, and sometimes their dad. He was staying with us on and off.
On and off, he would stay with you. Okay. And generally, were you aware where he was staying if he wasn't with you?
Mhm.
Okay. And what was your understanding of where he would stay if he wasn't with you?
Oh, what do you mean?
Would he stay with other family members or something like that?
Yeah, his parents.
He would stay with his parents, okay. And you said that part of your family, you would consider the kids' grandparents, is that correct?
Mhm.
Is that your parents, his parents, or both?
I'd consider my mom their family as well, his parents.
So your mom and Mr. Smith's parents, is that correct?
Mhm.
Okay. And is that still accurate while you're co-parenting?
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to talk to you about October 31st of 2023. Do you remember that evening?
Mhm.
Okay. Let's start with you were headed home to Fox Street, is that correct?
Yeah, I was going to the house. Well, I went to go pick up my kids first. And then we were going to go meet their dad at the house. So it wasn't unusual for him to be there. He didn't have the key. So I was coming home to unlock the door.
Okay.
So he lives there right now. He was staying with them at this time, but he doesn't get a key to the house. And she has to let him in when he wants in the house.
And at that time, I think you said they were born in 2018 and 2020.
Mhm.
So they were 5 and 3, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. And where had you picked the kids up from?
Daycare.
Daycare, okay. Do you know about what time that was that you were headed home?
Like 4:30 maybe.
Okay. And you were going to meet their dad. And when you say their dad, you mean Mr. Smith, is that correct?
Yeah, we had plans to go trick-or-treating.
Okay. And you said he had been staying at the Fox Street house, but didn't have a key, is that correct? Okay.
Mhm.
And so when you say staying at the house, can you explain that?
Like he lived there with us.
Okay. So is he staying there every day, once in a while, something different?
For the most part, he was there pretty much every day.
Okay. So you're going home, you had picked up your kids, it's around 4:30, and you had planned to go trick-or-treating.
Mhm.
And had you gotten off work that day? Is that true?
Yeah.
What was your work at that time?
I still work at the same place.
And what do you do?
It's like CSR work, customer service. I'm on a computer all day.
Okay. And you plan to go trick-or-treating. So were you in a costume?
I was wearing a headband. Look over my head.
What kind of headband?
I was just a costume with like ears,
What kind of ears?
like cat ears.
Okay. Did you have any makeup on your face for being a cat?
Mm-hmm.
Can you describe that for us?
My nose was colored black, and then I had like the whiskers.
The painted on whiskers on your cheeks. Okay. How about the kiddos? Were they in costumes?
They were.
What were their costumes?
Jalen was Superman, and Analia was Princess Cinderella.
A princess. Okay. So what happened when you arrived at Fox Street?
I was on the phone when I got out the car. As I was walking to the door to unlock the door, from my peripheral, I just see him coming up. I didn't think nothing of it. I thought he was coming inside. I think he was trying to grab my phone. In the midst of that, him trying to slap the phone out of my ear, like hit the headband and it cut the back of my ear. So I fell to the ground. I think it scared the kids, so they started screaming. He went inside to get his charger or whatever he went in there for, but he immediately came out. reached in my pocket to grab my phone. That's when I stood up after him, asking him for my phone back. When we were by his car, that's when the two gentlemen on the neighbors came out. And I see the dude, like a guy with the short hair, he had a gun on his side. When I seen that, I turned around, grabbed my kids, and the distance was close, so we went inside into my house. After we did that, I closed the door. You hear some gunshots going out. When I did look out the window, at this point, one of the guys is standing in the middle of the street, but Jalen's already driving out of the parking lot to the left.
Okay. And I'm going to break that down a little bit. We can go backwards.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the end of what you remember
Mm-hmm.
before you would have been on the phone with 911?
Yeah.
Okay.
So when I came back out after he already drove off and everything, I seen the neighbor coming out. I think Margarita, she was already on the phone with the police and told me to talk to them. I didn't know anybody got shot till I got back outside.
Okay. So when you pulled up to your apartment at Fox Street, and I want to show you a picture, and maybe that'll be helpful to explain what you're talking about, if that's okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if I may approach with what's been marked as People's Exhibit 3.
You may.
Do you recognize this photo?
Yeah, that's my house.
That is your house on Fox Street, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
An aerial view, is that correct? Okay. Your Honor, at this time, the people would move to admit and publish People's Exhibit 3.
Any objection to 3? 3 is admitted.
We're going to put 3 on the projector. And you do have a little pointer in front of you if you want to turn it on the side. There's like a little slide thing. And that'll give you a...
Don't do it. Don't do it. Put it down. My cat is going to tear up that courtroom if you turn that on.
laser pointer ability. Oh, and
Where am I aiming it?
on this projector. Can you show us about where your apartment was on Fox Street?
It's right there.
Right there. Okay. And and that's your door where you were pointing with the laser? And for the record, that's between the black and the white sort of squares under 8353 Fox Street.
This is my door. This is where the car was.
Okay. And you said the car was, and that's the third parking spot if we're going from left to right.
The third parking spot is what she said.
That's
right
where
there.
the second one? Okay.
This is the third one. It's 1, 2, 3, 4.
I'm so sorry. I'm having a hard time hearing you. You're trying to tell us where your car was or where Mr.
My car is underneath the hood right here. That's
Okay.
where I park. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. I can't. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay. And where was Mr. Smith parked?
And the third one.
Okay. Where do we see that dark
She
circle?
said.
Right there.
Okay. And you were parked under what looks like sort of a brownish reddish
Yeah, it's like a hood
rectangle,
covering.
pretty far to the left as we look at this picture. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's really not that far though. It's like right there. And then my car's right there. It's probably the same amount of feet from each other.
The cars are the same amount of feet from each other. So her car is 4 feet away from his, and his car would be 4 feet away from hers. But don't worry. The lawyer tries to save her from saying what she just said.
Okay. To the distance to your front door.
Yeah.
Okay. And did your front door and window area look different than when you left it?
No,
Okay.
it's all intact. Everything was the same.
Okay. So when you left that day, your screen had been on the ground.
There was no screen on the ground.
Okay.
Don't worry about the
Um,
pictures. There was
So
no screen.
you got out of your car and did you have your phone up to your ear? Is that what you were saying today?
Yeah. When I walked
No,
out,
she was
I was on
talking
the
out her
phone.
ass.
And that's when he tried to grab it out of my hand.
Okay. And where were your kiddos at that time?
They were right behind me.
They were right behind you. Okay.
Pause. Okay. She has a 5-year-old. She has a 3-year-old. She's on the phone. She just drove up on the phone talking. And her kids are behind her. So that means with a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, this woman got out of the car and just started walking towards the house. Her kids are behind her. They are 5 and 3. So that doesn't make any sense. You have to get 5 and 3-year-olds out of a car. You have to herd them into the house. You don't just and she's on the phone talking while she's doing this. I don't understand that part. That does not make sense to me.
Can you just describe that a little bit more for us? The phone was up to your right ear or your left ear?
My left ear.
It was up to your left
Not
ear.
this.
Okay. And what did that phone look like?
It was a pink iPhone.
Did it have sparkle pink on it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Who are you talking to?
Just a friend.
Okay. And so when you say he hit the phone out of your hand, can you show us what happened or can you explain that to us?
I think he tried to grab it, but because it was kind of like this.
He's right there. Just have him do it real quick. He's sitting right there. Just ask him.
And he was unsuccessful, so it kind of fell. And that's when I dropped down. But in the midst of him doing that, it pushed the headband into my ear.
Okay. Did that cause you pain?
Just a little bit. It cut the back of my ear.
Okay. So it was bleeding behind your ear, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you fell to the ground. Can you explain how that happened? He's taking your phone and you fall. Was it from the push? Was it from balance? Was it from something else? Can you explain that?
It was just more like the mush of him pushing down. I didn't really fall to the ground, but when my phone fell, I dropped down to get it, put it in my pocket. He went in. He came back out after a few seconds and then was just digging in my pockets, trying to grab my phone, grabbed it. That's when I got back up, followed him, and we're at the end of the car.
That's his car or your car?
His car.
Okay. And you're saying digging in your pockets. I'd like to show you another exhibit. I may approach, Your Honor.
Yes.
You recognize this photo that I put in front of you? Sorry.
Yeah, that was the one that they took when we went to the jail or wherever we were.
Okay. Exhibit.
Pay attention, because here's where it gets a little, I'm not sure. This is where I'm not sure. I'll tell you why.
Exhibit 62, it shows on the bottom. That's a picture of you on October 31st of 2023.
Mm-hmm.
Your Honor, people would move to admit and publish People's Exhibit
Nice.
62.
Any objection to 62?
Nice.
62 is admitted?
Your Honor, this time the people would move to publish People's Exhibit 62.
No.
Where were the pockets that you're talking about that you were trying to put your phone in?
They're kind of hidden in the back where my arm is. So right there.
Okay, so for the record, they'd be sort of where we see a shadow between the side of your left body and your left.
Yeah. That's kind of why it was hard to get out. So it looked like we were maybe
Sorry, I thought she was showing the pictures of her face. That this isn't the part.
scuffling or something, but once once he retrieved it, he got up.
Okay. I want to go back to that map picture. You said that you, I think, had gotten up to the door and unlocked it. Is that correct?
Mhm.
And after that is when he hit the phone out of your. Can you explain that order? I'm sorry, I got that wrong.
That was before, so I walked up to the door with the phone in my hand. He tried to mush it out of my hand. That's when it fell. When I was walking up to the door, the key was already in the door unlocked. So just before I was gonna open it, he walked up, phone fell, he went inside.
Okay, I think that's the part I missed. How did the key get in the door?
I put the key in the door.
Okay. And then the phone and you're falling and then he's going in. Is that correct?
Mhm.
Okay. So you were able, as you fell, to get that phone back in your pocket. Is that correct?
Mhm.
Okay. And if we can show that map again, you're really just right in front of your doorstep. Is that correct?
Mhm.
Okay. Right in that gray sidewalk that we see right in front of your apartment, that's where you're located?
Yep.
Did I understand you correctly?
Yeah.
Okay. And then you said Mr. Smith goes around his car, is that correct?
Yeah, I'm following him.
Okay.
We're both just walking right there. We're standing right here and I'm asking him for my phone. When I see the two men, they're like right here and they're like, what the fuck is going on? And then I see the dude.
I'm wondering
He's
the
like
same
walking
thing.
up towards us. There's something on the side of his head.
Okay, so your testimony today is that one of these men had something on the side of his hip, is that correct?
Yeah, I look like a gun.
It looked like a gun, okay. Tell me about that. What kind of gun did it look like?
What I assumed to be a gun when I thought he was gonna lift his arm up, I turned around. So I don't know. I grabbed my kids, we went inside.
So you never saw, your testimony today is that you saw a gun, but you never saw it raised, is that correct?
It looked like he was going to.
But you never saw a gun raised, is that correct?
No, I went inside.
You don't know, okay. Okay. So you went all the way then inside to your apartment?
Yeah.
And with the children?
Mhm.
Okay. And then what you testified to after that is only what you heard, or did you see anything after that?
I didn't see anything. When I got on the phone with the police, the only thing that I said was what I was heard. The neighbors were saying somebody was shot.
The neighbors were saying something was shot.
Mhm.
Okay. And then when did you come out of your apartment?
Okay, she just told us a great story about what happened, right? And we tried to pay attention, and we tried to follow along with her. But now, nothing she said is really what she meant. So she's gonna just take it all back.
Apartment.
But not all of it. But some of it. But sort of it. I don't know. All right. If you were paying attention so far, just stop paying attention now, because after this point in time, I don't understand what's going on. I don't know.
Shortly after we heard like 5 rounds go off, and I was looking through because right here where my door is, there's these shades and you can look through them. That's when I saw one of the guys standing right here. Jay was already over here turning out, and whoever was standing right here was like aiming that way with his arm up.
Okay. And because we have somebody writing everything down, I was also taking some notes, I want to make sure that I understand what you just pointed to on this map. So you were indicating that where we see this gray rectangle is, or did I get that wrong? A little bit farther south?
That's the front of my door.
That's the front of your door, right? And then you were saying that when you looked through the blinds at your front door, you saw a person standing in what we see as a gray rectangle, shooting towards Mr. Smith's car that was going down what we see as the driveway, if you will, between those two parking structures and then north on Fox Street. Is that correct?
Correct.
Stop it
Okay.
with your North woman.
Was the person that your testimony today is that you saw one person that had a gun down on their hip, holding it in their pants? What's your testimony today about the visual on that neighbor?
I didn't really get a good look at their face, but he had it on his left hand on the side of it. It was already out.
Stand up and show us what your testimony is today about where you would have seen that gun.
It was like side of him like this.
Okay, so your left hand is down to your thigh area, and you kind of were moving. So are you saying that you saw the gun like in his hand on his on his thigh? Or
Yeah, that's why I thought it was a gun, because he was going to raise it. It was also on the side of him.
So you thought it was a gun,
Hi,
but you're not
Walter.
sure if it was a gun.
Well, I mean, I was sure it was a gun when he was standing right here.
You were sure it was a gun. Are you saying it's the same person that you thought was maybe holding a gun,
Right there.
and you're with Mr. Smith in front of his car as the person who's shooting a gun in that rectangle as Mr. Smith's driving away?
Correct.
Not
Full
two
jury
separate
trial.
neighbors.
No, I don't know where the second guy was. It was just a younger looking guy with short hair.
Who was the younger looking guy with short hair? The one that you think maybe had a gun, or the one that you saw shoot a gun?
The one who I saw shot the gun is the same person I thought who initially had the gun.
Okay.
So when I saw that he was right here, it confirmed that he had the gun in his hand the whole time.
Okay. That's your testimony today.
Yeah.
Okay. And you saw the shooting of the gun from behind blinds in your apartment is your testimony today. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then after you don't hear any more gunshots, that's when you come out of your apartment?
Yeah.
Okay.
And come out right here. The neighbor's already walking towards my door with the phone in her hand.
And that's Margarita, you said?
Mhm.
Okay. And for the record, your highlighter was on the sidewalk going from east to west. Is that
Her
correct?
house is right here, and my house is right here, so she was walking this way.
Okay. On the right of the picture to the left of the picture. Okay. And then did you speak with the dispatcher, the 911 person?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you recall speaking to that person?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And this is while you are bleeding from your ear, is that correct?
Yeah, I think the ambulance or the police haven't shown up yet at that point.
Okay. So what do you do for your ear?
Nothing.
Do you put it
I think I was just in shock, so it wasn't really bothering me. I kind of was holding it. I didn't notice I was really bleeding till I seen it on my fingers.
Okay. And you spoke with the 911 caller, and then while you're on the 911 call, did you speak with any other law enforcement?
No, not that I remember.
Do you recall speaking with an Adams County Sheriff's Officer, Deputy May?
Not that I remember, no.
Do you recall speaking with any deputies that day?
I'm pretty sure they came up to me, but I don't remember.
Okay, so you remember them coming up to you, but you don't remember speaking to them?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you remember then going to the Adams County Sheriff's Office and speaking with a detective?
Yeah, they brought me in there, yeah.
Okay. So I want to go back through some things one more time. So your testimony today is that he was trying to mush the phone out of your hand.
Mm-hmm.
Do you recall making a different statement to the dispatch caller?
Yeah, I think I might have told her that he punched me.
Okay. And can you describe the difference between your belief at that time that he punched you and today that he mushed it out of your hand?
I don't know. I think I was just upset with everything going on. It was a lot.
Okay. Okay. And what was Mr. Smith's demeanor as he's interacting with you at that time?
He was upset about something, but I wasn't sure.
Did you have any idea what he might be upset about?
Yeah, mush. It's when you like, it's when like you hit someone and then you like, you like push it in. You know what I mean? It hurts. It hurts.
Sustained.
Had you talked to him earlier that day?
Mm-hmm.
Without getting to what he said, you said that you had made plans for Halloween. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think he was supposed to have his other son. We were supposed to go trick or treating.
Okay. I want to know about the other son. Who is the other son?
Okay.
Don't worry, I got this one. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure. Yes. That's called editing. Yep.
So the plan was to go trick or treating with who would be the brother of your children. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
What's that child's name?
Jadon.
How old is he?
I think like 3 now. 2 or 3, I don't remember.
Okay. So at the time he would have been like 1 or 2. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then is it accurate to say that that child has a different mother?
Yeah.
Do you know that mother's name?
Mm-hmm.
What's her name?
Jonea.
Jonea?
Jonea.
Jonea. And what's her last name?
I don't know.
Do you recall telling detectives you thought it might be Wallace?
Maybe.
Okay. So you had made a plan with her to go trick-or-treating all together, is that correct?
Not with her.
Not with her, just with the brother of your children, is that correct?
The very first she answered. I was expecting the prosecutor to say, is that a yes? And she just doesn't this whole time. This whole time. I just want someone to ask this lady on the stand, how do you spell Just, can you spell that for the court reporter? Is that how you spell it, Sandra? That's a good spelling, actually. You really did a good job.
Yeah.
Okay. And so while Mr. Smith is taking your phone, is he making statements to you?
Not that I remember. Maybe. I don't know.
Do you recall telling detectives he was shouting, "Don't talk to that bitch"?
Yeah, he might have said that.
Okay. And was it your understanding at that time that Mr. Smith was very angry if you spoke to Jonea?
Objection calls for speculation, lack of foundation.
Sustained with regard to foundation.
Okay. Were you and Jonea in communication?
Yeah, we weren't friends, but we'd talk, we'd co-parent with each other and him.
Okay, so you weren't friends, but you would talk and co-parent.
Mm.
No, the other baby was like 1. Her babies are 3 and 5. So the other baby was like, I guess once he either cheated on her or he broke up with her, had a baby with someone else, got back together with her. Who knows? Maybe all of the above.
I don't want to talk about what she talked about with you, but I do want to talk about when you're co-parenting, as part of that also making assessments about when you'll be together or not.
What do you mean? Like when me and Jalen will be together? Or...
When you and Jalen will be together, when the 3 children will be together, things like that.
Yeah, we're all cordial with each other when discussing the kids.
Okay. And did you have any indication from Mr. Smith's actions on October 31st to know why he was sort of coming out of nowhere and taking your phone?
Yeah, slightly. I think they might have got in an argument and she changed her mind about the plans we already made.
Okay. And so then while he's taking your phone, he's shouting, "Don't talk to that bitch." Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then you said he does eventually take your phone out of your pocket. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And drives away. Is that correct? Okay. So I just want to talk to you a little bit more about some of the things that you said
Never.
In terms of
Absolutely
the three
not.
times that you made statements before in this case, we talked about dispatch, the 911 call, the deputy on scene, and then talking to Detective Scherer. So you generally remember all three of those things, is that correct?
Okay, now the prosecutor starts to push back with this woman a bit. It's lovely to hear.
For the most part.
Okay. Do you recall telling Detective Scherer that you had figured something was wrong and that you had asked the defendant, what's the problem when you got out of the vehicle?
I'm going to object to hearsay and improper impeachment.
Overruled.
Do you recall?
For the record, he just lost again.
Recall that?
What was the question?
Do you recall telling Detective Scherer that you had figured something was wrong and that when you got out of the car, you said, what's the problem to Mr. Smith?
Yeah, because she was calling me on my way to the house, and I don't know, she was upset, just saying that she didn't want him to go the baby to go trick or treating with us.
Okay. And so you told us today that you got out of the car and that you put the
True,
you put the
but
key in
I'm
the
ignoring
door,
that.
and that he was trying to get the phone out of mushing it out of next to your face.
Mhm.
Do you recall telling Detective Scherer that he rushed at you very quickly?
I mean, it all happened quick.
So the whole incident, how long do you think it took?
Everything happened in like 30 seconds.
Okay.
That's the story of my life, guys.
And then at that point, do you recall how the children responded?
I think they were kind of scared, just confused with what was happening.
Okay. Do you recall them crying?
Yeah,
Do you recall either one of them making any statements?
not to my knowledge, no.
Okay. Do you recall either one of them interacting with Mr. Smith?
No, what do you mean?
Trying to touch him in any way?
No.
Hello, my love. Guys, Cloud's here. Hi, Cloud. Listen, if you guys can't feel the word mush when she says he mushed it, you have not properly pissed someone off before. Because when someone mushes something on you, they just don't hit you with it. They're way more angry than just hitting you with a phone or hitting you with something. They smack you with it and then they push it into you and then they twist it and turn it. That is mushing something on you and it hurts.
Do you recall telling Detective Scherer that Javian was on the side of him and trying to get on top of him and told you he was hitting his dad?
I think when he was reaching into my pocket, JVL might have been on the side of Jalen.
Can you explain that, please?
I don't know. My son was seeing that his dad was digging in my pocket, so he tried to stop the situation, I guess.
And were you on the ground at that time or standing or something different?
Yeah, I was kneeling down trying to hold my pocket.
You were kneeling down on the
Mushing
ground
is
on this
not
sidewalk?
fun.
Mhm.
Okay. And is that,
Smashing is different. Like smashing is when you you. All right, like smashing. All right, you break something on somebody or you break something. Mushing is when you hit someone with it and then you push it into them. You should try it today. It'll be fun.
is your testimony today that you then did see Javion hitting his dad or getting on his back or something different?
No, I don't know.
Okay. Do you recall telling Detective Scherer that that's when the kids were on his back when he was getting the phone out of your pocket?
Yeah, I think JVL was just trying to move his hand out of my pocket.
Okay.
Hi, Lacey.
Do you recall telling Detective Scherer that you saw Mr. Smith from the peripheral and that he hit you on the side of your face and that you fell down to the ground.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. And that at that time you started to hear the kids crying and screaming.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you also recall telling the 911 operator that Mr. Smith rushed you, he came up and punched you on the side of your face and your ear was bleeding?
Yeah.
Do you also recall telling the 911 operator that he grabbed your keys and phone out of your pocket while you were on the ground?
Not my keys, they're already in the door. But
I'll be your
my
lawyer.
phone.
Okay. And then as it applies to the 911 call, you're speaking with Officer Deputy May and Detective Shearer. Do you recall that not once you said that you saw a gun in the neighbor's hands?
Yeah, I don't think I mentioned it then.
Okay. And what you did say, Detective to Deputy May, is that Mr. Smith walked around the car, and while the neighbors were saying to get off of you, the defendant pulled a gun and shot at the neighbors. You recall saying that to Deputy May?
No,
Okay.
I wasn't aware anyone was shot till I came out and Margarita handed me the phone and they were saying that the neighbor was shot and that Jalen did it.
Okay, so your testimony today is that you did not see Mr. Smith shoot the neighbor.
I didn't see anybody shoot anybody.
You want the 911 call? Is that what you want? Man, that would be good, wouldn't it?
You didn't see anybody shoot anybody. Okay. And do you recall telling Deputy May that when the guy came out and said, get off of her, their dad, Mr. Smith, pulled his gun out and shot at them, and he shot him in the leg over there?
No.
Okay. Do you recall telling Deputy May that he, a neighbor, came out of his house to try to get him, Mr. Smith, off me, and then he, Mr. Smith, stepped back, or he, the neighbor, stepped back, and he, the neighbor, seen him, Mr. Smith, pull his gun out, and he, Mr. Smith, shot him, the neighbor, like 4 or 5 times?
No. When I went inside is when we heard gunshots, so I didn't see or hear any shooting till we got inside.
Okay. Do you recall telling Deputy May that the neighbor didn't even get close enough? And he was like, hey, get off of her.
Both, I think. Both.
And then he, the
I think.
neighbor, saw that he, Mr. Smith, pulled his, Mr. Smith's gun. So he, the neighbor, stepped back. And he, Mr. Smith, just shot.
No, the neighbors were already coming towards us with a gun.
Okay, but today is the first day you've ever said that a neighbor had a gun in his hand that you could see. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Y'all missed the opening statements. All y'all who are late missed the opening statements where the lawyers tried to tell us what happened.
And your testimony also that is, you're not sure about that. You just saw that his hand was down. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
So you're not even completely positive if you saw a neighbor with a gun. Is that correct?
Correct, but it confirmed my assumption when I saw him in the middle of the street.
Prosecutor.
Okay. Just a few more things I want to double check about statements that you made very close in time to this very short and intense period.
Objection, counsel testifying.
Overruled.
Do you recall,
Guess what just happened, guys? He lost again.
telling Deputy May that Mr. Smith went to the side of his car and he was telling the neighbors to get the fuck back?
No, I don't
I
remember.
say that to my neighbors every
Do you
day.
recall telling Deputy May that Mr. Smith pulled out his gun and shot it like 3 times at him, the neighbor?
No, I don't remember that.
Do you recall telling Deputy May that then they, the neighbors, came out and the other guy must have had a gun and Mr. Smith pulled it? Sorry, this is confusing. Then they came out and the other guy must have had a gun and he pulled it out and he saw that and that's when their dad drove off. Do you recall making that statement?
I'm confused.
Your statement was Mr. Smith pulled out his gun and shot at him, shot like 3 times at him. And then they came out and the other guy must have had a gun and he pulled it out and he saw that and that's when their dad drove off. Do you
No, the prosecutor is doing what she's supposed to do, because lots of times when victims get on the stand, they change their testimony. They're like, nah, they were just joking. This wasn't what really happened. So what she's doing is she's letting the jury hear what this lady said the day of. And, so whatever she says now doesn't matter, because this is what she said the day of the incident.
recall making that statement?
No.
Okay. Again, you told, do you recall telling Deputy May that you think you did unlock the door and then all of a sudden you just felt Mr. Smith hit you on the side of your face and that's when you went down?
Sure, I don't remember that, but yeah.
Okay. And then you stated, do you recall stating, and then Mr. Smith comes back out of your apartment and that's when the neighbors come out? Do you recall making that statement?
Yeah, I think the neighbors were out by the time we were already standing out,
Okay.
leaking into the car.
Walking towards where Mr. Smith's car is parked.
Mhm.
Okay. And then you recall saying, and then there's a scream. Do you recall screaming during this incident?
Me? No. The kids.
You do recall the kids screaming?
Mhm.
Okay. And then at that time, Mr. Smith doesn't go to the car. He has you on the ground, and that's when he's trying to pull the phone out of your pocket that's on your side, out of your phone, out of your pocket on your side.
When he comes back out of the house, yeah.
Okay. He's trying to put your hand in your pocket. Do you recall telling Deputy May that the neighbors are all like, leave her alone?
I don't think they said that till after we were already standing up, walking towards the car.
Okay.
That's when I seen them approaching us.
Okay. You saw them approaching you, and then you told Deputy May that they stepped back because Mr. Smith pulled his gun. Is that correct?
I don't remember saying that. I didn't see Jalen with a gun.
Okay. Your testimony today is you never saw Mr. Smith with the gun?
Mhm.
Okay. And that, do you recall telling Deputy May that Mr. Smith pulled the gun out and just aimed and shot at him like 3 or 4 times? You said it again. Do you recall saying that?
No.
Okay. Do you recall Deputy May asking you, so the neighbor came out of his house, the parking lot essentially from you, and you started verbally, and they
I don't think so. She is doing what she's supposed to do.
started verbally confronting Jalen, and then he just,
There was absolutely a gun. There was absolutely multiple guns, because one guy got hit with a bullet and had to go to the hospital and get some surgeries. That happened. That's real. B, the other guy who was trying to shoot at the guy who shot the other guy, the bullet holes are in the car, and he hit a couple houses too. So there were guns. Definitely guns.
pulled the gun and shot him. Do you recall him asking you that question?
No.
Okay. So then do you recall, you probably don't recall your answer, is that correct?
Yeah, from the time I turned around, went inside, the only thing I remember is just looking out the blinds and seeing that everything happened so quick. I heard all the gunshots inside.
Okay. So you're on the phone with 911 with holding your ear. You make these statements to Deputy May. And then you recall riding with Deputy May to the sheriff's office with your children.
Mhm.
Okay. And then I think you said you do recall speaking to Detective Scherer at the Adams County Sheriff's Office.
Objection, leading.
Overruled.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
I think you already said that. I just want to.
Hey guys, he just lost another one, and he's right again. He lost.
Place this where we are. Did you wait for a little while before you talked to Detective Scherer?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. Do you recall who you were waiting with?
The other neighbor, Margarita, I think.
Margarita
the
Ville.
guy that shot
So,
at the back of Jalen's car, he came in with handcuffs, and there was another lady there.
Okay. So you didn't know everybody that was there. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay. And about,
what do you mean? They said at the very beginning that all the houses are smushed so close together. Everybody knows everybody. They're all great, great, great friends. Remember?
how long do you remember waiting before you talked to Detective Scherer?
I don't know, 20 minutes maybe, I don't know.
Okay. And you're with your kiddos at that time. Is that correct?
Mhm.
Okay. Do you recall making statements to Detective Scherer in relation to asking the defendant or asking Mr. Smith to give you your phone back?
Did I tell the detective that?
Yeah.
That I told Jalen to give me my phone back?
Yes.
Yeah.
And do you recall making statements to Mr. Smith asking to get your phone back?
Yeah, I think I said it once, like, give me my phone back, but that's when we seen them approaching us, so.
Okay.
Now
And you said, and that's
far.
when you saw them approaching them. Is it accurate that when you're talking to deputies and detectives, your concern is for the wellness of those neighbors? Is that accurate?
It wasn't until I came back outside that I knew someone was shot, so I was just concerned, like, who got shot.
Okay. And do you recall talking to Deputy Scherer about, again, a same account that you've now told 911 and Deputy May, again, about Mr. Smith and his reaction to the neighbors telling them to get off of you?
What do you mean?
Do you recall that, again, with Detective Scherer, you made statements about being on the ground and the defendant, Mr. Smith, trying to get this phone out of your pocket, and then the neighbors coming out and shouting, "Get off her, get away from her"?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is that a fair and accurate memory, you think, as you sit and think about that instance today?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. And then do you recall telling Detective Scherer again that
I know how
Mr.
you
Smith
feel.
turns around, doesn't say anything to the neighbors, he opens the car door, and that Mr. Smith must have shown him the gun because they stepped back and Mr. Smith pulled it out and shot them?
I don't recall that. I
Okay.
think he was getting in the car to leave.
That's what you think just because you think it, or do you know that?
I mean, he already grabbed the phone, so he's leaving.
He had already hit you and taken your phone. He was leaving.
Objection, fact, found evidence that wasn't applicable.
Oh, anybody want to guess? Anybody want to guess how the judge rules here? She just said that the defendant hit her, and he objected. Facts not in evidence. Come on, nobody wants to guess? All right, here we go.
Overruled. I think it's clarifying. What was the question?
From your perspective, you're just assuming that he is leaving because he has already hit
They
you.
approached us, I'm assuming he's gonna get in the car and leave. That's when I turned around and went inside with the kids.
Because as far as you're concerned, he's already taken your phone and yelled at you.
Mhm.
Okay. But you don't really know why he's getting in his car. Is that accurate?
Correct.
Okay. And then you talked to Detective Scherer for about 20 or 30 minutes. Do you recall that?
Sure.
And do you recall also again saying to him that the minute that Mr. Smith gets your phone, he shoves you down. Do you recall saying that?
No, I don't recall that happening.
Sorry, what?
I don't recall that happening.
You don't recall that happening. Okay. And that you then again said to him that the neighbors were stepping back because they saw Mr. Smith's gun. And you saw Mr. Smith pull it out. It looked like a police gun.
I don't remember that.
Okay.
He can't hear out of the
Do you
other one
recall
either.
then telling Detective Scherer you saw the defendant shoot it and he hit the guy, hops in the car, and just skirts off?
I didn't see anybody shoot anybody.
Okay. And that you did tell Detective Scherer, do you recall when he asked, do you know if the neighbors fired any rounds back? Do you recall answering that question?
Yeah, I think I told him yes.
Do you recall saying that you thought after they went in, the guy was shot in the leg?
It was clear he shot in the leg when we came out because that's what Margarita was saying, and the other neighbor across the street.
Okay, so your testimony today is you did not see
But I didn't see anybody get shot.
anyone get shot. Okay. And do you recall also telling Detective Scherer that you didn't know who had the gun, but someone did come out and shoot at the car?
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy, in a few minutes, you guys are going to be so mad you trusted me.
And when you say shoot at the car, is that when you were showing us Mr. Smith driving down this driveway and then north on Fox Street?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You're co-parenting right now with Mr. Smith, is that correct?
Well, since he's been in jail now. So,
Okay, I want to ask you just a couple more questions. I'm going to approach with what's been marked as People's Exhibit 63 or 65, 66.
See all.
Oh, I'm sorry, that we gave you.
No, we do.
You did, but I want to know which one.
Judge, may we approach?
Yes.
I don't remember what happens here, but I'm pretty sure I know. I remember what happens here. Yeah, he loses again. Yay! Yay! Thank you so much. I don't know. It's very annoying, isn't it? Yep.
I've handed you what's been marked as People's Exhibit 63, 64, 65, and 66. Do you recognize these photos?
mm-hmm.
Are these fair and accurate depictions of what you and your children looked like on October 31st, 2023, while you were at the Adams County Sheriff's Office?
Okay, this is the part I think where now I keep flip-flopping back and forth. This is the part where I got confused again. Fozzie, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Here at this time, the people would move to admit and publish People's Exhibit 63 through 66 inclusive.
Record's clear with regard to prior objections. Any further objections with regard to 63 through 66?
Nothing other than what was previously addressed.
63 through 66 are admitted.
This time we're going to publish Exhibit 65. Can you explain to the jury what we see in Exhibit 65?
That's just the back of my ear. It was cut. It was bleeding. I also had a headband on with the metal piece, so I think that's what cut when it pushed down on my glasses.
Okay. And so we do see a lot of blood, but how big is your cut in this picture?
It was like maybe this. I didn't need stitches or anything. They didn't even glue it.
Okay. And you held up maybe half an inch. Is that correct?
Yeah, that.
Okay. Moving to People's Exhibit 64. Did you have this blood on your sweater before the events of October 31st, 2023?
No.
Okay. And we can see sort of some red marks on your cheek. Do you recall those marks?
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
And there we go. Cheeks. So All right. So the prosecutor said that he had beat her, punched her in the face many times, knocked her down, punched her while she was down. Blood everywhere. It was a horror scene. The defense attorney said he hit her once and her glasses cut were punched into her ear and cut the back of her ear. Neither of those things happened. Okay? So she definitely got hit. He says he hit her. She says he hit her, mushed the phone into her, and that cut her ear. Now, there's marks on her cheeks. So if he hit her once, there would not be marks on her cheeks. So he had to have. She said she didn't actually like fall down. So when he hit her, her phone went down, and she went down with her phone to get her phone, and apparently must have put it in her pocket really in like a millisecond. But so this is where I got confused. Like she has marks on her cheeks, then that one hit didn't do that.
And do you know how you got those marks?
It's when he mushed me, trying to grab the phone.
Okay. Do you recall telling Detective Scher that this caused you pain? At the time you said punching, but that this action caused you pain. Do you recall that?
Yeah, it was a little painful.
Okay.
The back of my ear was kind of cut. So.
Okay. And moving to People's Exhibit 63, just to be fair, this black on your nose, that's your kitty cat nose, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And in this picture, we don't see the cat whiskers. Do you know what happened to those?
I don't think I put them on then. It probably was just the nose that day.
Okay, so you just wore a nose and no whiskers, you think now at this time?
Yeah.
Okay. You don't think they were wiped off by any way?
No, there's nothing on the other side.
That one, Donald?
Okay. And People's Exhibit 66. Is this a fair and accurate depiction of your children?
Yeah.
Okay. 66. Your Honor, if I may approach with People's Exhibit 67, 68.
Yes.
Do you recognize People's Exhibit 67 and 68?
Yeah, it's my phone.
The phone that Mr. Smith took from you that day?
Mm-hmm.
Your Honor, this time people would move to admit People's Exhibit 67 and 68.
Any objection to 67 or 68?
I have no objection.
Those are admitted.
Damn it, Micah.
And we'll just publish
are
these
rules.
briefly with the permission of the court.
Okay.
67, this is the back pink glitter as you talked about, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Guys, we could just at Micah every 10 minutes and say, Micah, no, at Donald every couple minutes. We're going to at Donald every couple minutes and say, Donald, Micah just deleted your text. Micah just deleted your text. We will be messing with Donald and Micah at the same time, which is awesome.
You said this was your phone, is that correct?
Yeah.
Do you recall paying for this phone?
Yeah, it's already paid off. I just pay a monthly bill on it.
Okay, so you do pay a monthly bill, you pay value for this phone?
Sure.
Okay. Do you recall how much you paid for it?
No.
Okay, but you did pay for it at some point?
Yeah.
Okay. And then 68, just to clarify, this would be the front side of that phone, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The prosecutor is trying to imply that they were punched off of her, I think, which I'm not getting there. Nope.
Just a few more quick questions. You said that your family includes your children, the father of their children, Mr. Smith, your mother, and Mr. Smith's parents.
Mhm.
Is it accurate that Mr. Smith's mother still takes care of your children?
Yeah, she babysits them time to time.
Okay, as recently as this Sunday?
Mhm.
Okay. And is it accurate, and this is just a yes or no question, that you
Overruled.
still speak with Mr. Smith?
No.
Your testimony today is that you don't speak with Mr. Smith?
We usually co-parent through his mother.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just a yes or no question. Do you recall speaking to Mr. Smith as recently as last week?
No, not that I remember.
As recently as this weekend?
Mm-mm.
As recently as last night?
No.
Okay. No further questions at this time, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think this is actually a good time for us to take a morning recess. And I'm going to give you a little bit more time than I normally do for these. I'm going to ask that you be back downstairs in the jury assembly room, please, at 11:20. 11:20. Thank you all very much.
Probably end up being a combination thereof, though I'll try to keep it to just me.
My least favorite.
I know it's based off.
I'm addressing the discovery part of it.
Yeah, the problem is we're prepared on different things, and I think they're somewhat interrelated at this point because we're requesting a mistrial.
Okay.
I'm doing it on the basis of the reference to him being in jail. I did everything I could to minimize prejudice, which is not drawing attention to the statement. I think it was an obvious thing that was going to come from the question in terms of are they co-parenting in the present?
We can talk about that. And I do see these things as interrelated. So I'm going to turn to Ms. Corey to talk to me about the discovery situation. Tell me as specifically as you can what is or was missing, what the state of play on that is.
Yes. So right now we're missing the deputy who did a sweep of the residence body worn camera. They are not intending to call this deputy, but the reason why it came to my attention is because I was looking for something very specific. So I have to tell the court our defense strategy in some ways, although it's going to come out in trial. So I guess, and I started to talk about it this morning.
Say what you want to say. I understand you're missing something.
Well, yes. Well, because it's related to the prejudice about why it matters that we're missing this one officer that they're not going to call his body cam, right? Because he does a sweep of Anthony and Aaron's residence. Aaron, in his interview to the police, tells the officers, there is a camera. It will capture everything. Doesn't mention anything about it being broken. Doesn't mention anything about it not working. While Anthony/Stephen is in the hospital, that is when he lies to detectives and tells detectives that he picked up the gun and that he shot back at Mr. Smith because he did not want to get Aaron Estrella in trouble, because not only is Aaron Estrella a felon and not supposed to possess a firearm, he's also an undocumented immigrant, and he kept saying, please don't deport that man, please don't deport that man, please don't deport that man. So he says the camera is, quote, dead, which is a very specific turn of phrase for not working. These cameras don't run on battery. They can be unplugged. They can be working, not working for maybe certain other reasons. But he says that they're not working at the same time that he's lying to detectives about who fired the shots. So he has motive and incentive to say that this camera is not working because obviously the court's already seen it's a point of contention about if, when Stephen/Anthony draws
Thank you, Terry. Thank you.
his gun out.
Okay, I get it. Does the body cam exist?
Yes, the body worn camera exists. Do you want a basis for why it wasn't provided? Or I can also first say that there's also Deputy Lawson who is present with the safety sweep as well. He does go in the residence. He's right next to.
They don't look at all the same things I reviewed.
No.
Oh, sorry.
he's with Officer Thompson. My understanding is he's being shown on the video in each other's body-worn cameras. I had done a review of this case many months ago. Showed that we were missing such like Defendant Thompson's body-worn camera and reports. I had notified ACSO. We got batches of new body-worn camera reports. I thought they'd been discovered. ACSO shows in their system that they'd been sent over. So it's my error for not ensuring that that specific body-worn camera was in our possession and sent over. I thought it was in the batch, and that's my fault for not making sure of that. But I do think that there is other evidence that shows the information we're actively working on.
You said working. I'm a server. I don't eat when I'm serving because customers get mad. Sometimes I eat, but it's rarely rare that I eat at work. This is work, I guess, but not really.
Following through on these two systems that are apparently pretty complicated to get the discovery sent over.
I gotta voice some frustration. I just don't understand why we're playing Go Fish with Discovery. It seems like rather than just having a position where everything is moving over,
Missionary.
Ms. Corey is saying, do you have any nines? And when there are nines, sometimes the answer seems to be no. I don't get it, and I don't have to get it, but it's a real problem, and it's come up over and over just in this case. I know that Mr. Laughlin and Ms. Corey have made reference to other cases where this has come up recently too. I can't see everything from where I sit. I can only see what's being relayed to me, and it's enough for me to have really genuine concerns. Not all discovery violations are created equal, and there can be discovery violations that aren't a terribly big deal. And of course, when I look at a long list of cases like I've been provided here in which there are discovery violations, I think of times when something is pointed out that was a technical discovery violation for which the defense isn't even asking for a remedy. They just want to make sure that that finding gets on the record so that they can include it in a list of discovery violations. So I have trouble when I see a big long list of other cases without background. But I'm sitting here in a case in which real significant evidence has not been turned over. I get it that, again, here, there can be a reason why it's not that big a deal. And I very much respect Mr. Wickman's record that this was a mistake that he made. That's not an easy thing to say, and I appreciate it. And if this were the only thing we would be hearing, I would be more than happy to hear about another deputy going along and doing the search at the same time, or something else. Similarly, with regard to the statement that Mr. Smith is in custody, that's something that I don't think that was intentionally elicited, and I don't think that was a natural answer to the question that Ms. Babb asked. People co-parent all the time when one person is in custody. And I don't see that necessarily is, it's definitely not something that I saw as intentional as it came out. And on its own, could we cure it with an instruction? Maybe, probably. It seems like maybe based on the way the questioning was coming out, it may ultimately be inevitable that testimony that fact would be elicited based on the fact that it sounds like, and I'm making some assumptions, but it sounds like there may be calls from the Adams County Jail that would be impeaching to some of the things that Ms. Avalos said, I'm speculating a little bit there. But it's not at this point whether any individual snowflake is a problem. We're talking about a bit of an avalanche of problems. I've already repeatedly offered a mistrial, or not a mistrial, but a continuance to Mr. Smith in order to continue in order to cure the issues that I have seen come up. Does the prosecution wish to be heard at all about why a mistrial would not be appropriate now? Because that is certainly the way I'm leaning.
I'm gonna fast forward just a, because they just whisper for a while. It's kind of annoying. Still whispering. All right, hold on.
Ms. Beth?
Judge, I understand the court's analysis of snowflakes to avalanche at this point, but people still believe that we take each turn in this case, that we really don't have an avalanche at this time. We maybe have a small block of snow, and that mistrial is far too severe sanction at this time in this case, with other options such as perhaps a jury instruction, perhaps pausing to let the defense look at this body worn camera, which we think is really a duplicate of other body worn cameras that's on scene. I think there are other ways that we could offer to remedy this with some time even to think about it, but those are just a few off the top of my head that are less severe than a mistrial at this time. People would ask for consideration for a less severe sanction than a mistrial.
Thank you. I do understand that argument, and it's a reasonable one. Part of my problem, honestly, is I'm not even sure we're done and that everything at this point has been turned over. It would at this point not surprise me even a little to come back in tomorrow and find that there was something else that hasn't been turned over. I'm looking at cases like People versus Segovia, 196 P. 3rd, 1126, to talk about the fact that a trial court is justified in declaring a mistrial where the circumstances amount to manifest necessity, or where the trial court, in a scrupulous exercise of judicial discretion, reaches the conclusion that the ends of public justice would not be served by a continuation of the proceedings. Manifest necessity includes those circumstances, substantial and real, that interfere with or retard the administration of honest, fair, even-handed justice to either, both, or any of the parties to the proceeding. The General Assembly has also passed 18-1301, which indicates that termination is not improper, where, for example, a defendant consents to the termination or waives his right to object to the termination of the proceedings. Here, that's obviously the case. It is the defense that is moving for the mistrial, and based on everything that I've seen together, I have real concerns, and I have concerns in particular surrounding the culmination of factors. Again, if we were just talking about a body cam where maybe another officer was there and maybe another officer could talk about it, I would have that conversation. I don't know how it would come out. If we were just talking about the fact that it were elicited that Mr. Smith was in custody, we could talk about that. I just, at this point, I'm going to admit to some frustration. And I don't think,
Hi, Facebook people. Hello.
at this point where we are, with everything that's come in late or hasn't come in at all, in addition to the comment that, again, maybe on its own we could certainly remedy, or it might be inevitable that it comes up anyway. But at this point, it's too much. And I am at this time going to declare a mistrial. I'll let the jury know that. I'll go downstairs and tell them that in a minute, and I'll let them go. We need to reset a trial date.
I'm sorry.
I really hope that I don't hear the word discovery again over the course of this trial. So Please, please be very, very careful going forward.
Judge, before we do pick a date, could I make a little bit more of a record?
Sure.
We are obviously asking for the mistrial was part of the remedy we think is sufficient for, or is necessary for Rule 16 violation. We are still, in addition, asking for a deterrent sanction for the repeated discovery violations and gross negligence by the district attorney's office. Quite frankly, a mistrial it's a remedy we're asking for. I think it's a remedy that's necessary. I don't think it's a remedy that's sufficient because there's a lot of prejudice to Mr. Smith from a mistrial. We've obviously laid bare a significant amount of defense strategy. He's obviously in custody. This is not how any of us wanted today to go, quite frankly. And so I am still asking for deterrent sanction. I'm still asking for the dismissal of one or more charges. I understand the previous record the court's made regarding prejudice. I also, because I think I have to respond for the purpose of appellate prejudice, Ms. Babb stated this body-worn camera is duplicative of another officer's body-worn camera. Maybe, but one of two things is true. Either Ms. Babb is speculating because she hasn't seen it, in which case there's no evidence to support that, or Ms. Babb has seen it, in which case they had it and we don't, and that's a way bigger problem. I think it's probably the former, but still, regardless, I don't think we have it. Right, and that's what I assumed, and I don't think Ms. Babb would not give it to me if she had it. But the point being, it's speculation that it's duplicative. We have no reason to believe that at this point, other than that they both went in the house. So I'm still asking for a deterrent sanction. I mean, this is beyond the pale, the level and repeated nature of discovery violations. And I think go fish is an apt analogy. I think another apt analogy would be that we're effectively playing with one hand tied behind our back. They talk to the officers. The officers don't do interviews with us. So if they need to find something, they shoot them an email. They don't respond to defense emails. So we have no way to figure this out if they don't tell us this exists. Everything we've been able to reference for all these discovery violations where Ms. Corey and I have sought them out is because there's some other reference in discovery. I fear that the prosecution has evidence in this case that isn't referenced in discovery, for which, I can ask if they have 9s, I can ask if they have 6s. I can't ask if they have cards that I don't know are in the deck. And so I'm still asking for a deterrent sanction.
I understand your record and I understand your request, and it's well taken. I do think at this time that a mistrial is a sufficient sanction, so I'll deny your request. Let's find a new trial date.
He lost again.
Speedy trial.
Dude.
No, he doesn't walk. He's in jail. That's one of the reasons why there's a mistrial, because his ex-girlfriend, whatever, on the stand says, no, we don't co-parent because he's in jail. And they weren't allowed to bring that up at all. So I don't know why he's in jail. I don't know how long he's in jail for. But he's in jail.
As I recall, is it 120 days? Is it 90 days?
I believe it's 90.
I will have to give. That's the next week I'm in AHT. I could potentially do. I could do the week of.
I could do the week of the 26th.
Okay, if you notice, there's 4 minutes left to this video. I'm not playing anymore. Look, I don't know what date they come up with. They talk for 4 more minutes about a date alone. And then the judge is like, screw this, guys. I'm going to go tell the jury to go home. And then we can come back and talk about the date for the next trial. And I tried. 30 minutes later, after the judge comes back, they are still trying to pick a date. And I just said, screw it. I don't care when the date is. I think it's going to be March 28th. That's what I'm going with. And I don't even know I was just about to say that I don't even know if I'm going to get it. If they retry it, I don't even think I'm going to get it. I just, it's just that we see these cases, we see probable cause hearings, and we see them saying, that's not really what happened. What the police wrote down isn't really what happened. And the judge, like Judge Fleischer, was like, I don't care. This is what I have for today. You can get into that at trial. Well, this is what happens when we get into it at a trial. Most of the time they plead, so we don't get a trial at all. Here we got a trial, but no, we don't get to the end in here either. It's not often we get to the end of a trial. I don't know. I have no idea. Who knows? But that's it. Guys, thank you so much for being frustrated with me today. I appreciate it. I appreciate all your frustration with the legal process today. Hold on, I gotta do one more thing real quick before I say goodbye. Oh, and also, JK took my thunder away, but that's fine. I was gonna say that he lost all of those. He all of his objections he lost over and over and over again, but he won in the end. He won the big one. Thank you so much for coming out. This is going to automatically kick some people over to, well, all of you, unless you close it, over to OJ. If I don't see you in OJ, I shall see you all again real soon. Bye, guys.
Got these life echoes, digital dreams. Through the screen, her blue eyes gleam. Wicked humor, sharp as a knife. Her stream sparks electric light. Late night when the world sleeps, she's the friend that always keeps. Giggles roll like thunder loud. She stands out in any crowd. Kathy's laugh cuts through the gloom. Eyes blue like a summer's bloom. Her humor, dark and twisted charm. In a way, there's no alarm. Freedom tales waiting to the night. Her laughter feels just right. Even when my world turns gray, with a giggle, she lights the way. Her eyes mirror a sky so blue. In her jokes, there's a truth so true. With each string, she brings the light. Turns dark days into bright. Kathy's laugh cuts through the gloom. Eyes blue like a summer's bloom. Her humor, dark and twisted charm. In a way, there's no alarm. Streaming tales late into the night. Her laughter feels just right. Even when my world turns gray, with a giggle, she lights the way. Kathy's laugh